AFTV down here at Stamford Bridge. I've got Louis from 100% Chelsea. We can't come to Stamford Bridge and not interview the guy from the #1 football fan channel that represents Chelsea, Louis. And you know what, really looking forward to the game. Interesting game, a game where both clubs have got new managers.
Yeah.
We, of course, Unai-Emery, and the Arsenal fans would have seen last week that it was a whole new era, new style and everything. And you guys, Sarri, in charge, coming from Napoli with a good reputation, especially style of football and that, and you got off to a great start last week against Huddersfield. Tell us about Sarri. What have you made of him so far?
Well, Sarri as a manager, obviously.
Sarri.
I speak the language, Robbie. If I'm going to do it, I'm going to say it properly.
I forgot he's Italian. Yeah, all right. He's showing off. Sarri.
That sounded Scouse. What was that? Sarri.
Say it again. No, pronounce it again.
Maurizio Sarri.
Wow, I like that. All right, go on.
Thanks, Robbie. Sarri is a manager, so obviously he came to England with a massive reputation. Basically, put it this way, Napoli was everyone's second team. It was the equivalent, obviously, in the early 2010s, everyone had Dortmund, and it was, everyone enjoys the football that Napoli were playing. Obviously, he brought Jorginho with him, which was a massive part of that team. Was playing a regista role, deep line creative midfielder. And we've kicked on quite well. Obviously, pre-season was pre-season. The thing is, you can tell he's trying to implement a different system to what we're used to. Obviously, last season under Conte, there was a whole month basically we went without scoring, and it was quite lacklustre, boring football. And clearly, the board have turned around and gone, we want to completely change it. So you can see that the foundations are being laid to play a much better brand of football. I think as a manager, he's very different on the touchline. He goes for about 80 packs of fags a day, but it's not that.
I heard that.
Yeah, it's not that'll kill him. It'll be Alvaro Morata that does that. But I think it's a case of, so he on the touchline he's always chewing on cigarettes or whatever, and it's very different. Obviously, we're used to seeing the Armani suit on the touchline, whereas now I'm seeing a guy with a very different demeanour. We've had very wild managers in the past. We're citing Mourinho, Conte. Ancelotti was obviously another Armani manager. We've seen some great names, but it almost feels like we've gone in a different direction. Obviously, previous managers have all had previous trophy experience. The one thing that people consider a drawback with Sarri is his lack of trophies.
Never won a trophy, has he?
No, he hasn't. But I think, put it this way, the guy's come from basically the ground up in terms of football. He was coaching teams on the Sunday League pitch, and he's worked up while he was working as an investment banker. So he's a very different guy. He's like I'm saying, he's completely different to Conte. So we could go even deeper in and say, for example, on the training ground, Conte had a very strict regime in terms of diet and where players could be and all that kind of stuff. Sarri's he's almost more of a mate than a coach. He's apparently so he builds a relationship with managers, with players. By basically talking about his personal life and all that kind of stuff.
Sounds like Wenger.
Don't.
You know what? The interesting thing about it is what I read about Sarri, right? And it's really interesting because the manager we got now, what I've seen and what I've heard about him, is that he's very regimented.
Yeah.
He says, I want you to play there. I want you to do this. I don't want you to move there. I want you to play out the back, just nothing else. He kind of gives orders, which is completely different to Wenger. And then you've now got a manager that's taken over from a manager that used to do that. That's very like Wenger that says, you know what, you're great footballers, go out and express yourself. So it's gonna be really interesting, like a reversal of tactics almost in a way.
Well, I think that the regimented thing, it works, but it's not sustainable, I feel. I think if it was 10, 15 years ago, I think it could have worked out fine in terms of longevity. Whereas I think now, I find footballers are a bit too soft, almost. I think, again, I'll cite Alvaro Morata and I could keep going on him, but then people will say I have an agenda, which they wouldn't be wrong, but I'm going to save that till after Sunday to see how he does. But I think almost approaching players as more of a mate, it opens them up a little bit, and I think it might push them to do better. I think last season they were just sick of Conte. I mean, you could tell as soon as it kind of all started with that that Costa tech, and obviously that it just erupted from there. It just folded in on itself.
What's up with you lot, man? There's always something kicking off down there. You know what I mean? It's kicking off with the managers. There's always Mourinho with the what was her name again?
Eva Canero.
Yeah, Eva Canero, Costa incident. Always something happening there, isn't there, when it comes to managers?
Yeah, I mean, we love drama. What can I say? Keemstar would have a field day down here. But, you know, I think that for me, I'm kind of getting a bit bored of it. That's my personal opinion. A lot of people say we're still winning trophies. This is true. However, if you look at it, we've gone and got Mourinho again. We were linked with Carlo Ancelotti again last year. And when that starts happening, you know, we've already had Gus Hiddink come in twice as an interim manager. You know, when that starts happening, that's when you should get a little bit worried. For me personally, I'd like to see a bit of longevity with Sarri. But the problem is, I mean, if you look at other Premier League clubs, especially so you guys, I think you get, was Emre a 5-year deal or something? City built for 9 years before Guardiola. Klopp's been given time to develop a team. Obviously, we've seen Pochettino at Spurs and what he's developed and is continuing to develop on a very limited budget. You know, he's done a... I'm worried that that's not going to happen for Sarri. I mean, understandably, look, he's got a 3-year deal. He's an older gent, you know, he's in his late 50s. So he's not going to be someone who's going to be here for years. He is going to be a stepping stone. But the thing is, he needs to be given time to develop his philosophy. Like I'm saying, we're going from a very, very different style of football, from very defensive to what's supposedly going to be very open. But he has come out and said, you know, it's not going to be the same as the Napoli team. You know, it's a completely different league, and you know, he's quite smart on what he said. He's also given himself a 3-month plan to kind of see how the best of that football can be developed, which I think, you know, shows that he's got plans in place and he's playing it very smart. So I respect him for doing that.
Has he got rid of the turmoil that was in the club? Because, you know, last season Willian wanted to go, Hazard. Come on, let's be honest. He'd love to turn up at Madrid right now. Obviously, Courtois gone, but there seemed to be a lot of turmoil around the club. Do you think things are settled down now? Especially, obviously, you had that great win last week.
I'd say so. I think the difference with Hazard was, unlike Courtois, he didn't push the move. He kind of said, look, if the option's there and Chelsea want to do it, then fine, we'll move on. But he's very happy here in London. He's obviously very settled with his family in Surrey and Cobham. But I think he's got rid of a lot of dead weight, but there's still a little bit of drama. I mean, Willian coming out the other day saying, you know, I would have left if Conte stayed and all that kind of stuff. It wasn't necessary. It's a previous chapter. You've got to move on, look forward. And I think that, you know, Courtois was kind of the main issue. He's been the issue for years.
You love him here, isn't it?
No, I honestly, the thing is, right, obviously, as a Chelsea fan, everyone talks about backing the players, but having known what happens with Courtois because of Jean for years, you know, for the past couple of years, I've never been able to. I just look at him in a different way, and I've never really. I've always had a funny feeling about him, and now that he's gone, you know, he's shown his true colours. Yeah. And you know, we've got a new guy, and obviously,
£70 million for this keeper now. Be honest. Huh?
Big Keith. Big Kev or Big Keith.
Is that what you call him? Kepe, is it Kepa?
Kepa Arrizabalaga.
He's got his pronunciations down, man. I'll tell you. I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce that surname.
I'm going to get a video with Lewis.
Had you heard of him before he came over for £70 million?
I mean, if I'm going to be honest, only
tell the truth.
Only on FIFA. That's just about it. He was the go-to guy.
That's a lot of money for a goalkeeper that most people, they'd heard of it. They weren't really familiar with me. You know, that's a lot of money. Is that a panic buy?
I don't think so, personally. I think, obviously, they've been looking at options to replace Thibaut Courtois. And, you know, Bilbao are renowned for not releasing players for less than their release clause. And in the market currently, obviously, we've seen after Neymar, prices have just skyrocketed. And to be honest, you know, if you need to get hold of someone, you need to do it.
Neymar's a Brazilian international world-class player.
Yeah,
this guy, I mean, like you said, you never heard of him only on FIFA. I mean, 70-odd million.
That's the business. To be honest, though, I don't think. If you think about it this way, I think we only paid about 35 out of our own budget when we sold Courtois for 35-40 million. All of that went to Kepa. So I think it's smart investment. But we're just going to have to see how he develops before anything else happens.
And who'll start up front this week? You think it will be Morata? I mean, he gets. I got one of my mates, right? Me and him years ago, we used to work together. He's a diehard Chelsea fan, and we text each other all the time during games, stuff like that. You know, we're watching at home, and I can't tell you, this man, he's always tearing into Morata. I mean, you know, do you think he'll start this week?
Yeah, but I wouldn't start him. Personally, I think, to be honest, he's dead weight. he's useless. I mean, people are saying he had a good game last week against Huddersfield, where he had a couple of bits of link-up play and he held up a player. I mean, come on, he's a £60 million centre forward. The guy always talks about saying, "I'm going to fight for the club." In the summer he was saying, "Well, I could have left, but I decided to stay and fight." He's been saying that for the past 2 years. He talks the talk, he doesn't walk the walk. It's as simple as that. And until he starts doing that, then it's I would continue to rip into him. I don't think he's good enough.
Okay. I'm gonna ask you the same question that you asked me on your channel when we done the interview. Number one, prediction, and number two, your top four for this season.
I think you said a draw, and I'm going to agree with you. For me, there's a lot. It's one of those games where I'm feeling a lot of hype, but it's just going to collapse on itself, and it's going to be like a 1-1 or a 0-0.
I'll take that, by the way. Tell you that.
I mean, as long as we're not dropping points against teams that are in and around the top six, I think that top four is a possibility.
And your top four?
I think it'll be City first, Liverpool, Man United, Spurs, and then Chelsea and Arsenal in the Europa League.
You don't think you'll make the top four?
I think that there's a debate for the fourth and fifth spot. I personally still feel that Spurs have a better squad than us, even though they haven't bought anyone this summer. If you look at their first 11, I think, if you're going to do a combined one, I think Spurs would outgo Chelsea in those positions. I think that, we've bought smart, but it's just a case we're going to have to see how all of that develops. Because obviously, this, like we're saying, it's the same for you. It's a completely new manager, it's a completely new system. We've just got to see how it all goes. I mean, I don't normally do predictions, but I'm kind of just looking at it and saying, if he's saying it's going to be all fine and dandy by November, his style of football, then, I judge it then. It's too early to judge anything now. But I still feel we can't have the fifth best squad in the league if you analyse all the positions.
Okay, well, listen, that's very honest from Louis there.
That's me. I'm an honest guy. What can I say? I will always be honest. There's no point lying.
That was very honest. I mean, I'm still holding out and thinking that we could get in the top. I still think it all depends how quickly we adapt to the style of play of Unai Emery. But it's impossible for me to gauge last week because City were just too good. But we'll see. I think this will give me a sort of clear indication of the direction we're sort of going in. But listen, looking forward to the game on Saturday. It's going to be here at Stamford Bridge. Arsenal visiting Chelsea. It's always tough here. It's going to be a big game. Don't forget to subscribe to Louis' channel, 100% Chelsea. And don't forget to subscribe at AFTV. Thanks to all the press as well, by the way.
I am liking
brilliant.
it.
You like the brand?
I'm liking it. It's quite nice.
Hey, we've had some brilliant publicity from the press this week with all these fake news. Thank you, man. But listen, we'll be here this week covering Arsenal and really, really looking forward to it.